Guys, welcome back to Olikak TV by Matafari. This is our second video, guys. After the first video, we dealt with the yesterday's president's speech on Division 2016. And guys, on this video, I just want to speak something specifically on Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka is a man on a mission, and he's under siege. One of my fan or a follower by the name John Nyongesa asked me when I said in the yesterday's previous video that Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka was posing a threat to Ruto's government, and it explains the reason why NIS went ahead and created another boy in town, a new boy in town, man of the moment, Sifuna. Guys, I had my reasons why I said government had to do a lot to counter the speed, the ratings, the rise of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who was actually the only and the best sole contender against His Excellency William Ruto comes the year 2027. And guys, I did not mince my words when I said that. Guys, let's speak about the numbers. Prior to the coming in of Edwin Watanya Sifuna, the person on limelight was none other than Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. And this man who had presented himself as the best suit to unseat Ruto, and he was also based on his character that he's soft, he's humble, and he's easily to manipulate or to control, had found favor in one Rigathi Gachagua. So Rigathi Gachagua was favoring Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Suppose him was not to be on the ballot because of his impeachment. Therefore, let's come to what numbers say. Based on IEBC 2026 registered voters numbers, and based on the previous Kenyan voting history of the voters turnout, Kalonzo Musyoka, with him, was coming with the 2 million Kamba voters. Kalonzo Musyoka, with him, his base or his constituency, voters constituency, he was coming in with 2 million Kamba votes, assuming that Kambas were to vote the way they were voting the last 20 years. If you put 2 million on table, and because Kalonzo had found favor in Rigathi Gachagua, then Rigathi Gachagua, with him, he was bringing 4 million Kikuyu voters in Mount Kenya. Remember, Ruto got 3.2 million from Mount Kenya. 2022's Kenyan election, Ruto got 3.2 million Mount Kenya vote. But I'm saying, based on the voter registration and emotional being who Kikuyus are, and the manipulation by Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, the voters turnout is expected to rise just like what happened in Olokalao. Therefore, we expect that the 80% of Mount Kenya were to come out and vote, and that is 4 million people. Then we add 1 million other Kikuyu people from diaspora. those who are in Bahati constituency in Nakuru, those who are in Kajiado, and other patches of Kikuyus in these big towns and cities, because Kikuyus are known for business people and they always occupy at least 10 to 20% of each and every town. So cumulatively, when we bring those numbers together, Rigathi is actually likely to have 5 million vote in his bucket. So if we add 5 million vote of Kikuyus to Kalonzo's basket, which is having his 2 million Kamba vote, it takes us to 7 million people. And because 70% of Gen Z say Ruto must go and they don't support Ruto, and as we had to move towards the election of the two horse race, the horse of Ruto and the horse of Kalonzo, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the Gen Zs who are annoyed, who went to the streets because they wanted to remove Ruto from office, if we take 70% of those Gen Zs, remember they registered something like 2.4 million. So let's take 1.5 million of those Gen Zs, that is around 60 or 70% of them, assuming that they don't like Ruto. Therefore, they were to vote for a formidable candidate who is against Ruto, and that is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. 7 million, when you add 1.5 million vote of the Genesis, it takes us to around 8,500,000. Remember, Ruto won election not by 8 million, but by around 7 million. So this explains why Ruto found it so difficult to stomach or to fathom the rising of Kalonzo Musyoka. Because actually, if opposition was serious on removing Ruto, then the viable candidate to remove Ruto was none other than Kalonzo Musyoka. Because of that, Ruto or the oligarchs went into boardroom and they manufactured a so-called serious contender candidate who was to rise above Kalonzo and who was equally in equation to square it down with Ruto, and that is none other than Sifuna. Therefore, Sifuna was manufactured to come and counter the high rise and high expectation by Kenyans on Kalonzo Musyoka. So he came to demean the dominance of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka in the political matrix of opposition. This explains why Kalonzo Musyoka's matrix or ratings has dropped from 28 to 24 to 18 to 15 and currently now to 12. Therefore, while Sifuna's star is rising, Kalonzo's star is dwindling. And this is by design. Why? When you puncture Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and you remove from him the audacity and the feel and the velocity of him commanding the opposition, he become a weak vessel. When he become a weak vessel, when Kalonzo is the way he is now, in a state of dilemma, without knowing which step to take next, he becomes vulnerable for easy manipulation by the state. And that is why, or that is how Ruto was sending emissaries to Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, because they know that he has softened his stance. And leave alone what Kalonzo told us yesterday when he made an address with the Linda Mwananchi Sifuna. That was stage managed. That was to cool temperature. That was to give hope to his supporters who thought that Kalonzo has really actually joined Ruto. I have bad news in the room. Each and every handshake that has ever risen in Kenya, it always begins with rumor. Then the owner comes and debunk the rumor. But later, the rumor is vilified. Even before the coming of PPI, it was a rumor. Even before Ruto punctured the PPI, it was a rumor. Even before Raila had a handshake with Ruto, it was a rumor, which was debunked by this Sifuna and others. But later, the handshake took place. Even before the idea that Ruto was buying OTM, it was a rumor, but it came to pass. So when you see a rumor, actually it is never a rumor. It is always the work of NIS to put out a message so that the message gets counter reaction from the public, but as time goes by, the public are made aware of the possibility and the expectation and the likeliness of something to happen. So as people keep discussing whether Kalonzo will join Ruto or will not, and Kalonzo coming out and debunking the message, it leaves the grain in the public interest, and the discussion does not stop just because Kalonzo debunked it. It is called an onslaught. When the discussion will take like 2 or 3 weeks before it ends, a half of the population will have bought the idea, while a half will not have bought the idea. So when now the real idea happens, that for example, Kalonzo joins Ruto real idea in December. Now, the idea already comes when it is already having a half of the population supporting it because they are aware. That is what we call public interest and participation in a political matrix. So NIS does it intentionally. Some of these things you see that are published are never the work of the media. It is the work of NIS. So for those who know what I'm saying, no. For those who are an average brain Kenyan listener and viewer, you may not be in knowing. Finally, Kalonzo Musyoka will finally join Ruto between December, January, February, up to April, just when opposition names a different candidate who is not Kalonzo Musyoka. Because Kalonzo Musyoka does not have a good reason now to abandon opposition. He does not have a good reason. But the moment the opposition will settle on Sifuna, and then Rigathi also will be seen on ballot, that is the time Kalonzo will create an earthquake, and he will have good reason for his supporters to stomach. Because he will just tell his supporters, you see these guys, they have abandoned me. So what can I do? Can I join them? I cannot. Do you expect Rigathi to deputize Sifuna? Rigathi has been a vice president for 5 years and he's now on pension. Can he deputize a guy who has not even finished 4 years being a senator? And apart from him being a senator, he has never handled any other public office apart from his office of his personal office of the lawyer, of an advocate. This guy was just picked from the trenches by Honorable late Raila Odinga. He was just picked from the trenches. He has zero idea on governance and leadership. You open his skull and listen to what he was speaking or the answers he was giving to Yvonne Okwara in Citizen TV. You will understand. Or simple. Any person who is closer to Sifuna or to Sifuna supporter or to this any person supporting Sifuna, zero him down and ask him down, apart from saying Ruto must go. Assuming that now the saying of Ruto must go has worked and actually Ruto has gone. Now, what else is Sifuna going to do? Ask him any policy that Sifuna has articulated that he will put in place because Ruto has gone. Because when Ruto has gone, then Sifuna is left as the president. So tell us what he has told us he will be doing on education, on food security, on the safety of Kenyans, on youth college unemployment, on share, on affordable housing, because he said Pukuzus cannot take affordable housing because the cuckoos cannot go to the toilet floor. What has he talked about the industries? The Mumias sugar, there's the Pani paper, all these other, even engineers. What has he said about them? What has he said about our hospitals lacking medicines? What has he said about the old people, the old age? And what has he said about the newcomers, the newborn babies? This guy has a zero understanding of development, governance, and leadership. And for the Sifuna supporters, I'm sorry to tell you that. Actually, if Ruto was to go and we are left with Sifuna, we may have a worse country than what Ruto is doing. That is like playing Aviator. If you're playing Aviator and you don't know what to do with those codes, Aviator will smash you like hell. So if we want to be smashed by Sifuna, who's just like an Aviator, try him. And you will understand that you don't understand. Politics is not about emotion, guys. It's about your life, you and your children's life. It is about me and my family. And I cannot gamble. I cannot gamble, guys. And we are the people who should give directions and leadership to our Kenyan youth, who are our children. These kids of 20 years, 23, 24, 25 guys, actually, they feel they're mature and they're adults, but they're inexperienced. They don't know the feel of life after when they begin the family. Let them have 1, 2, 3, 5 children and they begin schooling them in this economy. They will know that a vote carry weight. It's not just about a sloganeering of 1 term or 2 term. It is more than that. Actually, guys, I've taken too long. You have been listening to me, Matfari. This show is an oligarch TV show. Subscribe, guys. Share love around, guys. Ask questions in the comment. I like to be beaten by stones. Throw your stones there. I'm ready to catch them. And finally, like. I love you guys. Bye-bye. This is Oligarch TV.